Hey everyone, and welcome back to Wild Heart Mustangs. We're picking up where we left off. We've gotten the first touches and taught our horses how to lead. The next building block in moving forward in training is making sure we can touch our horses with two hands. This may seem like a small change, but to many horses, this is a big hurdle to overcome. Some things to keep in mind are go slow, but don't be sneaky. Approach the horse like you have been working on, making sure to keep contact with your original hand and keep the hand moving while rhythmically introducing the new hand. Touching the mane can also be very strange for a horse. Quill gets a little nervous here but stays with me. Someone walks on the hill above us and he gets worried with a person on either side. I bring him back to where we were and continue the motion and end with him standing still while petting with two hands. Release and move to the other side. Start the same one hand on, then bring up the other. He gets concerned, I think mostly from the rope coming close to him, and goes to move off. He is allowed to move his feet when he gets nervous, as long as he stays with me. I just tip his nose in, continue the movement of my hand, and release when he stands still. Because he is reacting to the strange movements of my hand and the rope, I'm going to step back and let him see me do some extra weird movements. Make it bigger and more strange and scarier than I would actually be doing, so when I come back close to him, what movements I'm actually doing are less intimidating. I ask him to walk towards me while doing these strange things to build his confidence. Once he is good with that, I go back to getting the two-hand touch. This guy is a little more internal, so for horses like this, now that we have him leading, I like to take a little walk after releasing to allow his mind to get unstuck and process what happened. Sometimes with more internal horses, moving their feet can unlock their brains. You can see as we walk around, he gives me a lick and chew. He's much better now and lets me work on the wind knots in his mane. These low energy bonding moments of just spending time together can make a world of difference in your training. This is the second session of working on touching the Mustang with two hands. You can see he is much more confident with me in his space and all the different movements that I am making. Once your horse is comfortable with an exercise, it's always good to go back and up the ante, increase energy, or move on to a new spot. We also tend to focus on balancing the right and left side of our horses and go right to left. I found that keeping contact with the horse as you transition from one side to the other can help the brain connect the sides so you don't have to start completely over with each side. I like to use a combination of this technique as well as separating the right and left, approaching and retreating. To note here, I've already touched this horse with the stick in these areas. I don't start touching further back with my hand until I can get 2 hands on the horse. The first hand stays up near where the horse is comfortable and continues to move, while the second hand reaches back. I make sure that I have 2 hands on the horse so I can feel the tension through the body and know when to release effectively. Keep your hands moving. When your hands are still and then start to move again, it is more likely that the horse will spook. Horses really thrive on rhythm and repetition. I like to really focus on rhythm to produce relaxation when I'm working with my horses. I will move back and forth in a circular way for a horse to feel relaxed and work my way backwards this way. I find I can start to touch the horse in places further back faster when using this method. Now that he is more comfortable, I will continue down his body to his hind end. I do this with the stick first to make sure that he doesn't kick out. He's still pretty nervous about other people walking around the pen and gets spooked easily by other people. I take this opportunity to ask him to come close to another person outside of his pen. You want to make sure you get your horse around as many people and pet by as many people as possible to help them overcome the hurdle of stranger danger, which so many Mustangs have. They may be confident and good with you, but when another person comes, it can almost be like starting over. Use every opportunity you have. Make sure to educate people on how to approach your horse, as most people I find will try to go to the nose or the mouth first. Teach people to pet your Mustang between the eyes. When petting the hindquarters for the first time, I shorten my rope, but I still try to keep slack to not transfer the tension. Short enough to be able to react quickly. This part can be intimidating and being nervous is normal. Remember to keep breathing and be aware of what energy you're putting out there. Talk to your horse if you need help getting rid of nerves and tension. Here I go to wipe his hair off my glove and he spooks at the sound. I take this opportunity to address these small spooks and repeat them until the horse is no longer reactive. If you're enjoying the content so far, hit that button in the lower right corner to subscribe to my channel. Remember to turn on notifications to keep up to date on new training videos. Also, feel free to comment with any questions you may have. Here I go to reach for his face faster than usual, and he has a pretty big spook. This time, I'm going to ask him to stay with me and not walk off or around me. He has graduated from knowing how to react and being scared to understanding I am not going to hurt him, and he needs to tolerate more than before. He is distracted more than he is scared and being a little defiant, so I'm going to repeat the scary movement until he reacts in a way that I like. Stick with it and release only when he's doing what you would like him to. There may still be a little jump in there. Remember, this is only the first day that I have touched this horse, so we can't expect perfection. But each time should be better than the last. The first way I teach my Mustangs to back up is with wiggling the rope at them. I find that most Mustangs get this idea pretty fast. The downfall of this particular method is that the horse tends to get crooked and their head comes up, but you can correct this and ask again. I eventually teach them all different ways to back up, putting pressure on their chest, pulling back on the halter, pressure points on the nose, etc. I started teaching him this because now that I release him by drawing him forward and moving him, he starts doing this before I ask him, as well as getting in my space a little too much. He starts to see me as less scary and more of a leader, seeking me for reassurance and confidence when he gets worried and coming to me. This is a great sign, and I want to allow this to a point, but make sure he is still respecting my space. You have to be careful it doesn't swing in the opposite direction where they start pushing into you. It's always about the balance of push and draw, sensitizing and desensitizing. This also helps teach them that they can be confident away from you as well and don't need to be on top of you to gain that confidence. You can see he keeps seeking reassurance by wanting to come into me, and I just ask him to stand where he is and reward that. Add as much energy as you need, but be fast to reward any backward motion. Here, he steps through the pressure going forward, so I give him a bigger correction. Then he understands he shouldn't do that. That paw is a small sign of defiance. Make sure you look out for those things and correct them immediately. Small defiances can turn into big ones quickly and even turn into dangerous behavior. Tail swishing, ears pinning, stomping, these can all be seemingly small behaviors, but can be a sign of disrespect or challenging you. Make sure you are tuning into your horse's intentions and correct them if need be. These next two parts of the video are prepping the horse to change out the halter. I like to break things down into smaller pieces and naturally build up to what I'm trying to accomplish. We know that when we are going to change out the halter, we might touch the horse's ears, so we will focus on this aspect of haltering. The idea here is not to hyper-focus on touching the ears, but weaving it into other movements so you're gracing over the ears, and before the horse has a chance to realize what happened, you have moved on to another area. The horse realizes over time that touching the ears isn't as scary as either of you thought. I definitely recommend a helmet for this part, as the horse can throw its head around and you want to be protected from that. The next step, we know we might have to have a hand on either side of the horse's face to halter them, and have the halter going up the nose. So I practice this movement as well. You can tell I'm not tiptoeing around this at all. Now that my horse is more comfortable with touch, I'm going to treat him more and more like a broke horse and have higher expectations of him. If the horse has an objection, stick with them and reward when they give you the right answer. If they start to anticipate the ears being touched, go back to putting other areas and work back to grazing over the ear. He does have some rub marks on his face that I would like to take care of, so getting the drag line off is a big priority to me right now, so that he doesn't continue to make them worse. Next, we move on to prepping him to remove the drag and taking the lead rope on and off. I break this down into many parts, spending as much time as the horse needs on each part. The clip can make a lot of noise, so we want to desensitize the horse to as many possible sounds. He's got a lot of flies on his legs, so continue watching and I'll show you how to introduce your Mustang to fly spray in the next session. Once the horse is comfortable, I take the lead on and off to get them used to that motion from both sides. The first time I take the drag off will be during the day. I'll let the Mustang walk around without the drag for a while and practice catching after each session. Once I know I can catch the horse easily after giving them short breaks, I will leave the horse overnight without a drag. Here's the first time being caught without the drag. I want to approach with the stick first like every other time and do my touch it cue. Horses thrive on consistency, so when instilling a new skill, I want to make sure I'm as consistent as possible, so the horse is clear on what the expectation is that I have of him. Every time I have re-entered the pen up until this point, I have practiced catching him pretending that the drag is not there, in prep for this moment. I'm sure I was giving off a different energy because he was more flighty than usual. I go back to the stick and make sure to approach him several times with it instead of re-approaching without the stick. This could possibly teach him to run away from me. This moment is very crucial to creating an easy-to-catch horse. We are always directly or indirectly teaching our horses, and if I continue doing what didn't work, I would teach the horse to run from me. There should be no shame in going backwards to what worked and building back up to make sure you prevent holes in your training. I practice reaching for the halter and then grab my rope and reapproach with the stick. Since I have an object in my hand, I will look different to the horse. Practice approaching several times and don't just rush to clipping the rope on at the first opportunity. Also, don't just go lead off right away after attaching it. Give the horse time to stand and process that being still and allowing you to approach them is the right answer. Then, you can ask them to move off. Because we made sure that the first time catching without a drag was successful and ended on a good note, we can build off of that and let the horse know that is what we expect. We can continue to practice this every session and get better and better each time. This is where the touch it cue comes in handy. Ask the horse to touch it and introduce the object to them. Let them sniff and acknowledge the item and develop a curiosity. I like to use a soft gel curry that I can put on my hand as the first introduction to a grooming tool. It is mainly just an extension of your hand like the stick was. The horse will enjoy you getting the itchy spots as well as not having weird movements like flicking a brush or accidentally dropping the tool. Giving your horse a good experience for the first time you introduce a new object sets them up for success. You can then move on to other objects with less of a problem. Again, make sure you have the rope in your hand, ready to catch them if they run off and prevent their hind end from turning into you. But also remember not to have tension in the rope. When you are touching further back, switch the curry to the hand closest to the hind end so you aren't in a vulnerable position. Stay with the horse and allow the horse to move if it needs to prevent tension from building, but be ready to correct if they do more than that. Remember to give your horse the time it needs to process, learn, and release any tension. I'm going to start out like anything new and let him touch it and smell it. This is the second session working with the fly spray. The first session was just getting him used to the noise and spraying around him, not making contact. Normally, I would do this with a spray bottle with water so I don't waste fly spray, but I didn't have one available here. The next step after introducing the sound is to actually spray them. Once they are good with the sound, I just kind of go for it and continue to spray until they settle and stand. It's not going to be perfect the first time, but I want them to be better each time. To help with the anticipation, I make a spray noise with my mouth without spraying him, then proceed to spray. With this first initial introduction, I'm not asking for perfection, just not accepting a big reaction. We will introduce the fly spray in several sessions, each time expecting him to stand more still and proceeding to different parts of his body. This exercise is a great way to desensitize a horse, get them used to feeling things touching them all over their body, and accepting higher energy movements from you. I break this down by first letting the horse follow me to gain their confidence while swinging the rope. This gets them used to the sound and energy of the rope. Unfortunately, this pen is a little small, but we just make it work. I'll be working him in the round pen in my next video and show you how we progress from these more simple exercises to more complex questions, so stay tuned. You see he gets a little worried with the rope on his side, but that is to be expected in the beginning. He stays with me, which is a good sign, and I just repeat the exercise. Remember to keep the rhythm the same as much as possible. Let your horse know you are going to be swinging the rope over their body by the rhythmical ground swings and then transitioning to their body. Ask them to move off and then back to standing still so they aren't in freeze mode or holding onto any tension. Gradually increase the energy with the rope. Stick with an easy area of the body at first, the barrel or shoulder area. Save the hindquarters, legs, neck, and head for a later session. Allow the horse time to process and have patience with your horse. Remember, this is all very new and they are still learning to trust that you are not there to harm them. remember to keep that slack in the rope. You're wanting the horse to choose to stand still. Keeping the tension out of the rope and allowing the horse to make a mistake and correct it, or to choose the right answer and to stand, is how they learn. If you're just there preventing them from moving instead of them choosing the correct answer, they aren't actually learning to take responsibility for choosing to stay and process things instead of choosing their natural instinct, which is to react first and think and process later. I really hope you've enjoyed watching the transformation of this special Mustang. Quill is on his way to being a super partner, and I'm so glad I get to share this journey with you. Stay tuned for my next video where we will travel from Tennessee to Georgia to where Quill will be boarded for the next several months as we prepare for the South Carolina Mustang Challenge. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, stay wild at heart.